Hi everybody, I'm Janet Fletcher. I'm a food writer in the Napa Valley in California, and I'm the publisher of a blog called Planet Cheese. Comes to your inbox once a week. If you don't already receive Planet Cheese, I hope you'll go to my website and sign up. I would love to have you as a reader. I'm also a volunteer with a new grassroots movement called Victory Cheese. If you haven't heard about it, you soon will, because we're a small group, but we are growing and we have big ambitions to help America's specialty cheesemakers, artisan cheesemakers, and dairy farmers who are really struggling right now. They've lost a lot of sales because of restaurant closures and food service closures and people just changing their eating patterns. And this is a real dilemma, because you can't just like wine, you can put it in your cellar and wait. You can't do that with cheese. It's perishable, and dairy animals have to be milked. So some of us have come together to create Victory Cheese and help keep this cheese moving through the pipeline from the farm to your table. And one idea we came up with was the creation of Victory Cheese boxes. I've created a dozen of them, and my partner on this is igourmet.com, the online merchant. You can go on their site and find my dozen Victory Cheese box collections. They're all themed, they're all different, and I hope you will explore them. The one that you purchased is a collection of what I'm calling American Originals. What's an original? It's kind of hard to come up with a type of cheese that hasn't been made before, but what I'm considering American Originals are cheeses that are not based on any on a recipe from Europe. So we don't have a cheddar, we don't have a Gouda, we don't have a Swiss Alpine type cheese. These are recipes that are unique to the maker. So we're going to go through them. I thought it would be interesting for you to have some background on the three cheeses that you purchased in your Victory Cheese collection. They came to you from iGourmet in this little bag, which I hope you'll reuse. I'm thinking I might use it to store my bread in. So we have three cheeses, and they are quite different, and we're going to taste them from mildest to strongest, which in this case is also the youngest to the oldest. That's sort of a good policy whenever you're tasting cheeses, that you would want to do that. So let's start with our freshest cheese, which is like one of my new favorite cheeses. I rarely see it in California. It's from Minnesota, from a creamery called Shepherd's Way Farms. It is a farmstead cheese, which means they are making it with their own milk. They have sheep, and so this is 100% sheep's milk cheese from their own animals. Jody Olson Reed is the co-owner and cheesemaker. And look at this gorgeous thing. It has no rind. It's very fresh. It's very moist, and probably when you got it, you might have noticed how there was still some moisture in the bag that it came in the wrapping, and that's because it's still giving off whey. It's a very moist cheese. I think of it as a lot like if you can imagine a feta without all that salt and without the age that feta has. It's almost like a very young piece of feta, but not salty. So I just would encourage you to enjoy it with summer vegetables like tomatoes, roasted peppers, to put some olive oil on it, some cracked black pepper. It's a great kind of start of the evening cheese or appetizer cheese, and I just think you're going to love the tang of it and that lemony quality that you get from sheep's milk. So just a few days old when it leaves the creamery. I just can't think of another cheese like it in the U.S. So that's a lovely one, and you'll also notice how open it is. This is not a cheese it hasn't been pressed. It's just been made into curds, and then the curds kind of drain from their own weight until it's firm enough to wrap and ship to us. Now, then we jump up quite a bit in age and firmness. We're going to move to California and taste this beauty, which is Vella Cheese Company's Mezzo Secco. Now, some of you may have had Vella Cheese Company's Dry Jack. It's a California classic. That one is basically a jack cheese that is aged a long time until it gets quite firm and hard. And the creator of that, he created it in maybe Dry Jack itself goes back to about the World War I years, but Vella Dry Jack is from about the 40s, and Ig Vella, who inherited the company from his dad, used to, 15 years ago or so, 20 years ago, he was working the counter in his retail shop a lot. In the morning, people would come in and talk to him about the cheeses, and he heard from a lot of people that they thought the Dry Jack was too hard. It's not, it's delicious, but a lot of his customers thought the Dry Jack was too hard, and could he make a version that was less hard? So that's what mezzo secco is. It's half dry compared to the Dry Jack. So it's only about 4 months instead of 8 months for the Dry Jack. It's raw milk, which the Dry Jack is not. Look at that gorgeous color. That's from cow's milk when it gets some age. And this cheese is just going to be really nutty. Some butter notes, but mostly just a lot of kind of roasted walnut nutty notes. And it's going to be pretty firm, not as dry as a Dry Jack. This is not a cheese that you would grate, but I actually might use my Parmesan knife that's blunt edged to just cut. Actually, you could just use a regular knife on this. It's not that hard. Be sure you cut a piece and smell it. You're going to get some brown butter notes. Couldn't resist. Really delicious cheese for red wine. And it's like nothing else made in the U.S. I cannot think of another cheese that's like this. It's a little bit like a cheddar, a little bit like an Alpine cheese, but totally its own thing, an American original. So our third cheese is also something that I don't think exists elsewhere in the U.S. It's from Wisconsin, from a creamery called La Claire. And La Claire started life as a dairy farm. And then the second generation, 5 kids, decided they wanted to make some cheese out of their goat's milk. And one of these 5 kids, Katie Hedrich, has become just a world-class cheesemaker. When she was 25, she won the U.S. Championship Cheese Contest. Not for this cheese, for one called Avalon. And this cheese came later. This is Chandoka, and it is a blend of cow and goat's milk. It's about 70% cow's milk and 30% goat's milk. So you're going to get some of that goat milk sweetness from it. It's look at this gorgeous rind. This is a natural rind, and it is, you can see like a cheesecloth wrap. I can even see bits of the cheesecloth on here. Lots of different kinds of molds growing on here. It's really fun to look at these orange and white and gray and gold molds that have colonized the surface of this cheese and are going to help to give it incredible aroma. Aged a minimum of 8 months, so it's twice as old as the Mezzo Secco. And they describe it as cheddar style. So it's going to have some cheddar tang and some, kind of that crumbly cheddar texture, but it's going to have some of the sweetness that comes from goat's milk. So I think you're really going to enjoy that unusual mixed milk cheddar style cheese from Wisconsin. I really appreciate that you bought this collection of American Originals, part of a dozen Victory cheese boxes that I've curated for iGourmet. Every time you buy one of these Victory cheese boxes, iGourmet donates $10 to World Central Kitchen. So I hope you'll go onto the iGourmet site, take a look at the 11 other collections that you missed, and give them a try. They're great gifts, and you can also participate in a Cheese of the Month club. You can buy 3 or 6 months or a year's worth of Victory cheese boxes and help us help America's specialty cheesemakers.